I've had this interesting journey in my life. You know, it continues now, and I have stopped fighting it. I think that when people think about who I am, they don't know what to say that I do. I used to try to fit myself into a box, like I'm an actor. And if I was writing a script, it would deviate me, or it would pull me away from being an actor, and then you would just not be able to make an impression as an actor, but you were a writer. Nowadays, like, because pretty much of social media and the way information is exchanged so quickly, and how we are all creators in our own little spaces, you know, that's how I look at myself. And there is no definitive parameter for me.
So welcome back to Journey to June. I'm your host, Wendy Basilico, and we have part 2 of Brooke Procida, who is the owner and founder of Studio PCI. And you won't want to miss this. You'll hear her journey at a young age of how she went into the world of theater and creativity. And we didn't even, there's so many things. We could talk forever, but you will really enjoy her perspective of what her lessons in the journey she took down that career path of theater, and how it's led her to run her company that she's running now, that she helps youth and leaders of youth within the theater world. So listen up. Enjoy it. Enjoy. Brooke, welcome
Yes,
back.
we're like already
We're here. We've had
exasperated.
major tech problems, but we are back, and Brooke is in part 2 of Journey to June. I almost forgot the name of my podcast. So Journey to June. This is real deal today. We're, on the East Coast, the two of us. We used to live on the West Coast, but now we are here. So again, Brooke, tell our guests where you're coming from. We're going to dive in. We talked about a lot of her health journey, but we're going to dive into her career.
Do you know, I don't remember anything from part 1.
Me either. I love it. I have no idea.
I have
Oh my
no
gosh.
clue what we talked about. I did
That's
have a
great.
funny memory though the other day. Can I start with this?
That would be great.
Okay. I had a memory, and it's just like a full circle story about how we all end up where we end up in life, and how energy attracts energy. And I had a memory of when we were little. You didn't know me, but I knew you. And the reason for that is because I was like best friends with Meredith Armstrong. And and we used to
Names.
ski together, and you were like the older girl, and I thought you were the coolest person in the whole world. And like, you said something to me once. I don't remember what you said, but it was obviously like, yeah, Brooke's cool, or like, yeah, Brooke, you can do it, or like whatever it was. We were all hanging out somewhere. And I remember telling you this at one point. You're like, I have no recollection of this. But it like stuck with me. I'm like, Wendy is cool. Like, as a 10-year-old, that was my. And then later in life, you resurfaced, and then Josie came into my studio, and I was like, Wendy is still cool. And now you're even cooler than you were. So
well,
here
I'm
we
glad I
are.
had a memory of when I was young, inspiring you. Obviously,
Yeah.
maybe it was in my being. That's so funny. But I do now that I probably could recall back. You were skiing with Meredith Armstrong, and I said that.
We froze. You're frozen for me, so I can't hear anything.
I know. See,
Okay.
This is gonna.
Okay. Just roll with it. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see if we can do it.
Let's
Yeah.
just see,
So
'cause
now
I love
you're
it.
saying now you
No, it's like
coming
back to
back.
me
Yeah.
that because when I think back of Christina and Meredith, and we did a ton of things together, I actually kind of recall that.
Remember the
So you
cool
guys
little
went to school
girl.
together, and I was around you, and you thought I was cool. That's good that you
Oh
still
gosh,
think
we're
I'm cool
frozen.
after all these years. I love it. And it's still freezing.
Yeah, it's still freezing. What do you think?
I'm thinking I'm going to kill them, because every time I'm losing my patience, really. We can try. I could go get them. I still don't like the angle, so.
I also feel like at this point it's a Riverside issue, because I know this happens to a lot of people.
Well, what happened was we did this many times, and like this happened to a few people, a few of our times here, and
Hmm.
I kept telling this that is it ruins the conversation because
Yeah.
I can't
There's
hear
no
what you're saying,
flow.
or
Yeah.
even if it seems fine, the flow's gone.
Yeah.
But then he did something, and it worked the whole time last time. So I think it has to do with the streaming of Riverside, and maybe something's not set up right. But they are gonna.
It's working now. And the second we start saying something important, it's going to.
Should we go? Keep going.
We'll do one more round and see. And then if not, we can.
Thank God you're patient. I mean, most people don't have this availability. Obviously, you and I
What's
have no
today?
lives.
Yesterday was crazy. The mold guy just left. He inspected the house, but let's move
Okay.
on from that.
Okay. I don't want
Okay.
to talk about mold. Okay.
Me neither.
So anyway, so funny memories. We have been connected various times throughout our lives, and the fact that I just want to pick your brain.
Hmm.
Being a mother of a young girl that is very passionate around creativity and theater and music, and every time she's doing something in that arena,
Hmm.
you are in top of my mind because you're the one who brought her into this, and really nurtured her passion around it, because I am an athlete and I have no clue. So what I want to pick your brain about is your journey in your
Hmm.
career of creativity
Hmm.
and all the things, the magical things that you do. But also I'd love to pick your brain around how you nurture it, because I'm in it. And I know there's a lot of parents that push their kids in sports or something they're passionate about, and there's like a balance. So before we get into like your advice around it, I
Hmm.
want you to share, um, when you started to know consciously
Hmm.
that, like, wow, I love being a creative. I love to be on stage. I love to use my voice. I love whatever that is. So go from your childhood and take us there.
It's such an interesting topic because I think many creatives will say this, and if they can't articulate it, they feel it, that you're not separate. It's a hard question to answer because I don't ever remember being separate from being a creative. So I couldn't have noticed that I was one because it's a very interesting thing for me to like bring myself back into my 2-year-old self. Like I always was dancing or making up stories or making faces or making people laugh, making stages out of, like, always. No one taught me how to do that. That was my nature. So to witness my nature, I don't think that happened till like way later in life when I started to learn about like spirituality and the ego and the id and, the observer and all the Eckhart Tolle stuff. But as a kid, I can pinpoint a couple of moments where I was like, oh, this is special.
Mm-hmm.
And it also wasn't necessarily I'm special. It was this is special, which I love because later in life when you get into the business professionally, it does sometimes become about I'm special. I'm, I'm on TV. And it's like if you go way back, for me, it was never like I'm special. I do these things that other people can't do. It was like this is special. I'm involved in something special. I'm a part of something. I always knew that for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
I want
mhm.
to tap into the word that you use, nurture, like your nature. Like, when you think back of your childhood,
Mhm.
um, when you look back to the people you're surrounded,
Mhm.
who really lived, can you think of other people that were so attached to their essence of what their gifts were?
Not
I mean, like,
necessarily performing arts
yeah,
gifts or in the performing arts. What do you want? What do you want?
what, whatever comes to
Because
mind,
people
really, because
like my brother loved rocks. You know what I mean? And he,
yeah,
he was really into facts, and he's gifted with like being able to recall facts from anywhere and dates. And he was like bought a rock tumbler when like he was the sciency date fact history guy, and I think he's gifted in that regard. And as children, as you know, we live in these things because it's play. This is our nature. It's playful. And at a certain point in time, it can become work and stress, and you can rely on it to make money and make ends meet. And then it becomes this beast, But going back
Mm.
to,
Mm-hmm.
to the question, so in terms of performing arts and other people that like reflected that in me, the performance aspect or the creative aspect, I would say I felt um not I can't say I felt alone in it, because I was a very spiritual kid, and so I always felt like the presence of God my whole life. Like I was in a play written by God, and I was like always performing, and I was well aware of it. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to play the part. I got you. I got this. Like it was always this co-communication. I would go out into the woods by myself. I grew up with brothers, and half the time I was like, ugh, go do your thing. I'm doing something special. But I mean, I would think birds were talking to me. And even though in my little 7-year-old mind, I really didn't think that, I convinced myself that the bird, instead of going, rah, was going, Brooke. And I'd follow it through the woods. And, I'd be like, I'll go where you lead me. And then I would see something on the ground and be like, this is what I was meant for. This is what I'm doing in my head by myself. And I'm in an entire movie with like 3 sequels by the time the day is done. So I go home.
Right.
So I was never alone in it because I worked with everything. But the first time another human being reflected that in me was definitely in dance class, growing up in Huntington, being in dance class, noticing like some of the other kids just did what they were told and did the steps and looked bored. And then there was me, like in a movie like I was already on Broadway when I was there. And you could see that magic reflected in another child or two, but not everybody has that. And is it delusion, or is it magic, or is it like, you know, it's
It
a
is
thing,
interesting.
right?
Like, even just watching Josie around, some people have this thing coming out of their pores
Yeah.
and they're just gravitating. You're like, that kid
Yep.
does this for
Yep.
that I was
Yep.
the athlete, But then I see other kids, and I don't know if you felt this way. Like, I see Josie as a leader because she's so sure of who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see other kids like confused of because who are they? Like, they're really in this uncertainty. Like, describe, I guess, in your grade, like whether it's high school, junior high, what did it feel like to know exactly what that is for you, and to be in like school that not everybody has that?
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing that you just described, Josie. I didn't realize how much Josie and I have in common until right now, and how sometimes it's very difficult for me. Well, not anymore. I've really learned to help kids who have lower self-esteem and who don't have necessarily the encouragement or the like the hit by lightning, this is what I do moment. But I used to be frustrated by that because I've actually never felt that. I have never felt like I don't know. I was
Mm.
born confident. It's just it's wired in me.
Yes, it's wired in you, but somewhere, whether it was your mom or your dad or a mentor, also had to fuel it. I mean, when you were young, like when you think of the people
Yeah,
around
I
you,
can
there
tell you
there
that.
had to be some
I can
nurturing. So
I
I would
can tell
love
you
that.
that the spots.
Yep.
YMCA camp in Huntington was the first place that I got up and sang a solo, and the woman
How old? How old?
seven seven
Hmm.
seven. You want to know what I sang?
Yes. Can you sing it right now?
Come take my hand. You should know me. It's always been in your mind.
A
Olivia Newton-John.
little
You
Olivia.
have to
Olivia.
believe we are magic, right? I'm up on a tree stump with a microphone,
7.
and my uncle is in there going, louder, Brookie, louder. Apparently,
I
I was
love
like
it.
this. I have a really funny picture of that with my little like striped shorts and my striped knee socks with my like braids with 4 boys that look like they're right out of ET in the background. Like, it's real funny with their hats on and like 70s, just full blown 70s. But yeah, so
So
YMCA
you
camp.
just said, I want to go, I'm going to go on stage. They asked us to go on stage. There was no fear
You had to
or
audition for the solo.
So you went in, like nobody had to like. I mean, I just went to the audition for
Yeah.
this big school that Josie's
Yeah.
trying out for, and there were like kids hanging on to their mother's leg that were
This
like
was
10.
at camp in the big room at YMCA. Everyone was in there, and the teacher said, "Who wants to audition for a solo?" And everyone from where they were just sang. And in my mind, I'm like, well, no one else is going to get it. Literally, as a 7-year-old.
Hmm. That's good. Confidence. You're right. But when you think of your childhood, of that free embracing that nurture within you, who else? Okay, you're
Mm-hmm.
at the Y, but who was like feeding that, giving you opportunity, putting you in the right
Hang on, we
spots?
froze. We'll pick up there in a second. Hang on. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, so we froze, but who was feeding that? Yeah,
Yeah,
like
who was fueling it?
who was my me in my life?
Yes, 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 exactly.
Um, I didn't have one. I had several people, and it was YMCA, and from YMCA, it was the Brownies, and being a part of the Brownies, we did a play, and like I got to be the lead in the play, and so it was Mrs. Kuska, my Brownie leader, who introduced the arts, and then from elementary school into junior high, I did the shows there. Um, and the directors there were both great. Very much in my high school, it was my choir teacher, Robert Gottschalk, who taught me how to control my voice and, taught me to read music and turn me into a musician from just a show off. And from there, I went to Lisa, Long Island High School for the Arts. And there, it was Bert and Pat Michaels, who were my teachers, and Elliot Weiss, who was my accompanist. They were incredible human beings. And so I had people every step of the way. Did I have like an arts mentor? No. Frenchwood's Festival of Performing Arts was the greatest thing I ever did. Tons of people have come out of that camp and gone on to do Broadway and TV and film. And
But you believed in yourself.
yeah,
You had obviously confidence, courageous, confidence, bold. You were in great environments to keep blossoming.
yes.
Because I guess I'm curious about this because I was raw talent athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I could play anything.
Yep.
Yet, I knew that.
Right.
And at 10, I said, I'm going to be a tennis professional. And then my mom would take me to once a week to this Tony Pilaflex in Long Island, but you're never going to be anything once a week. And she was busy. Like, it's not anything bad. It's just she was busy. But no coach, even Division I, eighth in the nation, no coach. I was walk-on in college, but no coach said, this girl, let's take her on. And I think that's what I'm passionate about in what I do at Live Your June or listening to your journey is, and that's why I ask, like, who was that? Or was it just coming from you? Is I think there has to be someone that like there pushes a little further for you to even get to the direction that you've gone.
That's gonna be my parents.
Okay.
I'm lucky.
I mean, when you talk about your brother, I mean, they must have nurtured that, the Stones.
Yeah, my parents were like a happy couple, and they liked being married. They were glad they had children. They were both healthy. They were stable. We were not wealthy when I was a child. My dad got out of the army and took his tiny little amount of money and bought a carpet cleaner and started a carpet cleaning business, and then built his way up into owning a flooring company. And he was doing, the Jets and Chase Bank, and he had all these huge clients by the time I was in high school. And then he was doing really, really well. And all throughout that time, my parents, not one of them has ever said to me, and let me tell you, like, I'm 50 now. There are some ups and downs in this career, and it has been very down. And neither of them ever said get a quote unquote real job. My dad would always go, "But why aren't you acting? Well, you should just act."
So that's a rarity.
Yeah.
Because I can actually probably pinpoint a good 5 times in my life where I was pulled back to do what I'm supposed to do, not live into like
Yeah.
something drawing me. And
Yeah.
no, it's not done intentional.
No,
It's
it's
also,
out of care.
yeah, of course, of course. So that's interesting. So that's a huge plus.
Mm-hmm.
Like even just now where you are in the journey that you are in at this moment, to have that assurance that you're loved no matter what.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm very lucky.
and they
Which I
honor
think
that.
is why I do what I do, because not every child has that. And I have been that person for like hundreds of kids where it's not that their parents aren't supportive, they just have no idea what to do. Like they're accountants and lawyers and doctors, and theater people scare them.
Yeah, no, yeah. I got my, you know what? There were two things that Josie, and I love my mom, but my mom was like, "You sure she should be working on gymnastics because she's really tall? Like I don't think she fits that." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. Well, let's try." And then the next comment was like, "Theater, that's a hard road." I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, that's the comment. Like, because people don't know, and it's not even out of not loving someone. It's just what they perceive, which the reality is anything you do with passion that's extraordinary is a hard road.
Yeah.
But what you gain from it is, to me, is what it's all about." Um, okay, back to where you are. I want to
Yeah.
get back to,
Okay.
so you go, tell me, like, Cold Spring Harbor, or you went to the art school.
Cold Spring
What
Harbor, the
happens?
art school, and then I went
And
from
then,
the art school. I got into USC. I didn't even apply to schools in New York. I just wanted to like go to Hollywood. So I went to USC. I got into the BFA program there, which is very hard to get into. And, I spent 4 years with the same people every single day. I think there were like 28 of us when we started and 14 by the time we graduated. People just drop out. It's very hard. It's challenging and grueling. And then, like, even there, I was always just super confident, and not in a way that I thought I was better or that I deserved anything, just because I loved what I did. I just felt so calm in my skin when I was on stage, and off for me. Some people, when they get on stage, they get confidence. I happen to just feel I'm comfortable.
so I always think, even watching my daughter again, trying out yesterday or the other day, I'm like, okay, here's this, like, she's been a little bit confident in what she's been doing, and now she's moving into like hundreds of people auditioning for a choice school in Florida that people come from all over just to see if they can
Mhm.
get in because it's free from the state. And I'm like, that's good. When we go to college as an athlete, you're not the you're not the
Yeah,
superstar anymore.
right.
You're like a little fish in a big pond. And now like reality kicks in. So when you went, what did you felt confident, but like you even talked about 28 kids and then it turned to 14. What
Hmm.
was the biggest struggle, or what did you learn in college during that time?
Well, that's when I started getting sick.
Ah,
So, yeah, and we talked about that in the last podcast. But that's when my health really started declining, and when I started having to fight really hard to stay on top of things, and fight really hard to not pass out on stage, and fight really hard to finish my work within the 4 years that I went there. In hindsight, had I had any wisdom, I would have been like, "Ooh, I'm taking a year off to get better." But I was not that type of person. I also just want to
well, I don't
comment.
know.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, go ahead. Go.
I
No,
was
no.
going to
I
say,
just don't think we're taught that. We're taught to grind.
yes,
Go. We're
exactly.
taught to keep in
Especially
it.
when you get a place in a school that only
Enough.
28 people get.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but just the confidence thing, I just want to expand on that a little bit, that it's not like I'm confident I'm going to get the part. It becomes more about I'm confident that I'm fine either way. There's like I don't have that fear of not getting something. Later in life that becomes a fear because you have to eat. Do you know, like,
Yeah.
you're not all of this history we're talking about, I had a roof put over my head and food given to me. So I was, yes, confident in my capabilities, but also like confident that if I didn't get anything, didn't get it, it was okay. And also when a best friend or a colleague or a person that I worked with or went to school with would get a lead and I would get the secondary part or whatever. Like that always felt right to me. Like I always felt in the right spot. I never felt like, what the hell? Why,
So again, was that just in your nature or that was kind of
I
learned?
wish I
I
knew the
mean, because
answer to that.
failure, I mean, I'm watching, Josie, just my examples are Josie because it's in my face right now. But she had a rough audition like in the fall for herself. And I said, listen,
Yeah.
she was in the middle of the audition, cried at the first part, came out bawling because she had ruined a note. And then I said, listen, if it's too much, you're 10. Like we can
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
like take a break. This is supposed to be fun. So I'm just curious, like, where did you get that?
Well, here's the thing. I also want to add kids now have it much more, it's much, much, much harder because we are not comparing ourselves to 55 billion people on a phone.
Yeah.
We were not. It was just the people around you. And these guys are just bombarded on the regular with people who, look, God bless anyone who puts anything out there from their heart and soul. Great. But a lot of what you see on social media where people are talented, it's a clip. You know how much hard work I mean, it's like taking a shot on goal as opposed to playing the entire game where you need stamina and strategy. It's the same thing. We're athletes too, actors.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
really, really, really hard. People have no idea how grueling it is. But nowadays, these kids are like surrounded by like, oh my God, they're so good. They're so good. This is so good. Oh my God, I should be like, I don't know. And there's just so much room for anxiety and panic and comparison. Like comparison is the devil. But when I got there at USC, yeah, obviously there was more competition than in like Cold Spring Harbor, but I don't know, I just built for it.
I love it.
Okay, let's just like temper that though. I'm built for it, but I kept getting sick. I kept getting sick. So I
I
had
have a question about that. I wanted to hold it off to the end, but I know
yeah, I
I
had Lyme and I
possibly
didn't know it.
could.
So
Hold on.
yeah.
I know, but I mean my this is the second time this thought has popped up in my head, so
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
gonna wait.
Go.
Why? So if you didn't listen to part 1 of Brooke, go back and listen to her health journey. But this is what she's talking about. She's in her college moment and she keeps getting sick and she's like literally grinding through auditions and scenes and while she's ready to like keel over and
Die.
die because so my question is, why do you think I have when something bad or something tough happens to me or something happens where I am brought in a direction I had no idea I was going to go in and I didn't really want to, so I'm kicking and screaming going in a direction I didn't want to go.
Hmm.
Why do you think you were diagnosed with Lyme's? Or I think always something has a reason. Like what do you ever think about that? Like why this happened to Brooke?
Yeah, that's like been the focus of my life for the past 15 years. Um, so okay, well, as you know, I'm still dealing with like post Lyme physical stuff and emotional stuff and spiritual stuff. And I definitely believe, without going crazy down like a million rabbit holes right now, I definitely believe that artists are more sensitive because it's our job to be. And so we have to remain open with our receptors like this to be able to field and portray. We have to be able to take in, use, and give back. It is our job to be these like open receptacles that give and receive. So that can be very dangerous because you can constantly be taking things in, you know, creating emotion and experiences within your own self that you don't then let go of, and everything can get very heavy and very
Mm-hmm.
difficult. So if you're not taught boundaries and personal space and personal power, these are all spiritual principles that if you're not taught, this is why I also went into, creating Studio PCI, because I wanted to teach that at a very young age to kids so they understood that there could come a time where this becomes taxing, grueling, and even quite dangerous. Actually, it's very dangerous to be in this business and in this career without knowing who you are and knowing what your capabilities are and where your threshold is for certain
Yes.
things. But why me? Um, I also believe that a lot of times the chronic illness world, whatever, any sickness that comes upon you or any real hardship obviously is a lesson. I mean, this is, I'm not inventing that. Everyone who talks about getting through something says, oh, it was a gift. I needed it to learn to be where I am today. But it's not arbitrary. Like I could have had anything. The fact that it was Lyme disease set me on a very specific path to meet very specific people to tame very specific habits, maybe to even change my DNA, which is like what I'm doing now, which is like looking at epigenetics and how I'm built and how much of that is in my control to work with in my lifetime. And do we just get what we're given? Or so this journey is like seriously not for everybody. And I think that we have the capability to choose. I'm going to look at this challenge as a huge gift and turn it around and give it back. So it's not really fun a lot of the time. And I know that's all perspective. Like you can change your perspective, and that's why I think meditation and stillness and mindfulness and surrounding yourself with people who do that themselves are the most important things you can do as an artist or an athlete or someone who's has to perform at a high functioning level. You need to be able to sit and understand what is yours and what is outside of you, and be able to become strong and aware of what is yours. When I say what is yours, what are your true feelings? What are your true instincts? What are your true needs? As opposed to the crap that's coming at you all day long.
Oh, God, so many nuggets in there. Number one, love it. Love everything you're saying. Because I feel like I played sports all my life up to 30, and I had no clue who I was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, up to 40, I was discovering myself.
Right.
In a way that I'm still making sense at 52.
Right.
And I hear you saying is the gift is you're giving it back to help those earlier on so they are aware to have tools to manage. And when you're thrown all these expectations of how to perform at elite level, that there are necessary tools to, number one, know yourself and to be healthy in the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that. I want to go back to also the heaviness of your theater world,
mm-hmm.
of the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I took a class. There's this guy, Jean-Louis Rodriguez, who does body language work.
Mm-hmm.
And through a mentor of mine, Bo Eason, who does storytelling, he always has Jean-Louis come in. And he works with top actors and actresses. And
wait, Wendy, I just want you to know that you cut out on body language work. So explain him again. Explain him again.
So basically, Jean-Louis Rodriguez works with, it's called Alexander Technique. Maybe
yes.
You're
forced to do it in college.
Okay,
when you're an actor,
there you go.
You have to do it.
I mean, how do you not know it? You know it. But I don't know this.
No, we're
so I'm taking this speaking. Taking this. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm taking this speaking course.
Yeah.
And we're on stage, and we have this Jean-Louis Rodriguez come in, and we're talking about what kind of animal are you? And so you're getting more in your body than in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to know this guy a little bit, and I was like, I want to go to one of your classes. I had no idea what the F I was signing up for.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse my language. I had no idea. It was a 3-day course. I said, sure, I'll go, Jean-Louis. I'll go hang out with you. I am with actresses and actors, and I'm the only non. I get chills thinking about it. I'm the only non actress actor
Why would you
in
do
this
this to me?
class at 20 plus people, and we have to do a monologue. I'm doing some speech about my dad and having a baby on my own. We're on the ground acting with our eyes closed, acting like animals, and it totally works. But what I remember when we did meditation and all these things, but what I remember is how much energy and intensity, and I don't even know. Like it's like me playing sport at 100 times. At even when I was so intense, I was just in the moment. I wasn't having to like imagine being something different. I'm just being me. To watch these humans turn into one was a uh what do you call that, sloth, because she was acting out a drunk human that on a bed, and I was like, she did it so it was amazing. Anyway, that is what just triggered when you were talking about the energy of what, and that's just a moment in time that I saw 3 days, let alone doing a production or a movie.
A
So I
lifetime career.
a lifetime. So that's why I love your. How would you like? I know we're jumping all over, but how would you? How do you explain
Wait,
your
you're frozen.
mission
Hang on.
with the?
Hang on a sec. Okay, how would you?
Hello.
Okay.
How do you explain your mission for your company, your studio that you are, or your a brand that you
Mm-hmm.
are passionate about bringing to the world?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's like I didn't really connect the dots until this moment
Oh,
of you
cool.
sharing the heaviness of it.
Yeah.
Like I know you do great work, but now I see it at a level that I have passion from Live Your June. But go ahead.
Mm. Yeah,
Like
it's
what?
so interesting too, because in the musical theater world in particular, and in the youth musical theater world, it's such an oversaturated market with like, hey, look at me, jazz hands, and I just want to get up and belt from Rent, and you know, that's not what I do, even though it can look like that on the surface. So whenever people would come to PCI, they'd always be like, this place is so different. Well, this is why, because I'm coming from a completely different, and I'm not going to advertise like, if you don't want your child to suffer the severe onslaught of mental illness and drug addiction and all of the things that come with like having a crappy actor life, come to Studio PCI and do Annie. Like I can't market like that. So it really boils down to the sort of Gandhi, your life is your message. Like I just try to embody that as a person, and I feel like I was really lucky and am still lucky with Studio PCI, particularly back in the day when we had the space. But just the type of family and child that came there, I never had one issue. It was always just like pure success, pure joy, pure give and take. What was the question?
The question is your mission like
Yeah,
around Studio PCI.
yeah. I developed that in grad school in London when I had to come up with a thesis. And the reason I went to grad school was because that was at one of the points in my life where I was like, um, this career is ridiculous. At this point, I should be a billionaire. Like, this is so stupid. Oh, you're frozen. I'm gonna hold off a minute until I see your eyes open. Okay, now I see you. Yeah, and I was just getting mad that I had to have any kind of survival job, and that um, I wasn't acting, full time. And yet I had had some pretty successful things happen to me. So you get a taste of what it's like to get a huge paycheck and to be on set with famous people and, to be doing all the things. And then you're still catering and, serving canapes at the Academy Awards. It's like, oh, good Lord. So at a certain point, I was like, this is dumb. I'm out. So I went to grad school to learn other aspects of the business and got my degree in creative and cultural entrepreneurship. But my focus was holistic arts education because I became very interested in the reasons why people like me were leaving the business, what success actually meant to people. Does it mean I'm rich and I'm on a television show, but I'm a miserable human being and I can't hold a relationship and I have colitis? Or does it mean like I'm happy with myself on a daily basis, even though I go to my catering job. I just booked a commercial and I'm cool juggling both of them. I wasn't either of those people. I was just like, I just was unhappy with the struggle and I thought I deserved more. So I left. And it's fine. You know, you take breaks. Every actor does it. And I really created the concept of Studio PCI at Goldsmiths, University of London, where I did my grad work. And I interviewed about 100 actors, people who were just starting out, all the way through to TV stars, movie stars, and Broadway stars, to ask them the same set of questions. And the same data kept presenting itself, which was amazing to me. The word balance came up in almost everybody's reply, the difficulty finding balance in life. And the two things that came up across the board were either mental stamina, like I just couldn't hack it. It got very depressing. I felt bad. I had no self confidence. It made me feel shitty about myself. That, or I couldn't afford it. I couldn't pay my rent. So it was money, wellness, and, you know, the talent has to be there as well. So that's what the triangle of Studio PCI was sort of born there. And my little slogan is health, wealth, art. And, you know, my logo has been really interesting. It's been coming up. It's just it's the circle with the dot in the middle. And I didn't realize then that I was creating, you know, a nucleus and really sort of
The core of who
detailing.
you are.
Yeah, like what was really happening on the inside. And my whole life has now become about root cause, which, going back to why did I get sick, or why did I experience symptoms, or why did Lyme present itself? Oop, you're frozen, so I'm going to stop. Okay. So going back to why did that happen to me? You know, you can change the language to why did that happen for me and be positive about it, which I think helps. But it's because I needed to learn that root cause thing is part of who I am as a person and my philosophy on life and my philosophy in art. So I also was not, here's another thing. We need to say this. This is really important. People get sick, and this is only my opinion, and I can only speak from my own experience and what I've seen, but I see a lot of times people get sick. Not all times, there are exceptions, but a lot of times people will get sick when they're not in alignment with the want or the desire that they've put out to the universe. So you're saying, I want this, I see this for myself, I want to be this, I deserve this, but then your actions are not even like not all the way committed, they're contrary to what you're saying. And so that's where illness comes in my experience. So I could be saying, I want this, I deserve this, I see this for myself, I know this for myself, but my actions, and that's where what we're talking about, it's harder for kids today because they have so much more input on what they're supposed to be doing, what they're supposed to be looking like, what other people are doing, how other people found success. Same thing with healing. Same thing with healing, right? Oh, I drank turpentine and my symptoms went away on the spot. Or, you know, like everyone's got their crazy thing that worked for them. And meanwhile, somebody else died from it. So my point is that when we have a goal, whether it's I want to be on television, I want to be on Broadway, or I want to be ultimately healthy, and then you're struggling to get an agent, you can't get past the second call at a Broadway audition, or you get diagnosed with Lyme disease, whatever it is that's in your way is really an answer to the work and the actions that you've been putting out there. And it's not an answer, it's a hint that you need to shift direction. You
Yes.
either need to change your perspective, change your actions, change your mind. My mentor, Gypsy, who passed during the pandemic, would say to move your furniture into a completely different space because it breaks up that habitual, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's like, where the hell are my socks? It breaks up your, you know, neurological habits. And it's something as simple as that that can get you thinking differently. So if you're ill or if like hardship is coming up, again, there are exceptions. You know, I'm not speaking I can't even go into, like, I don't want to get into things that this is right for and true for and not true for, but because I don't know. But from my experience, it's often that I'm unwell because I asked for something and then put forth something that wasn't in alignment with that ask or with that desire. So the universe is helping you. And then we
Yes.
complain and say, what the hell is happening to me? And then you seek outside of yourself to answer that question, which is never helpful. Well, sometimes it's helpful because you get little bits from people who are reflecting in you. But the answer is to get quiet, to see what your initial desire was to begin with. Do you still want it and why? Is it coming from your heart and soul, or is it something that you feel like you're obliged to do or expected to do? And then if it is still something, and how do you know that? It lights you up and it's light. There is not a heaviness about it. So those actors around you go out of their light. You walk out like, I am never doing this again. That was so weird. Whereas an actor is like, whew, I'm on the right path, and it's like you get lifted up. You feel connected to the greater universe around you. I also just learned that universe means one song. Did you know that?
I did not know that. But I love exactly what you're saying
And
because
then you sit and you say, I'm not done. It's, do I
go,
want
go.
this? Right. And then what are the steps I've been taking? And are they in alignment with that? And how do you know that? For me, I think it's different for everybody, but for me, because I'm an aggressive, like knock down the door, like I talked about how confident I am, it's like those things are all alpha. For me, it's, am I forcing? If you're forcing, I don't think it's right. If you're allowing and there's strength there, then you're on the right path. But forcing means needing things to go your way, regardless of what's being put in front of you. It's control. There's like a control factor, and I'm a controlling human being. So then I had to look at where my self-confidence was actually coming from my whole life. Is that a control thing? Is it because I was left out by my brothers that I had to develop this like little pit bull, and mine, I did realize, comes from God. For me, I just feel very connected, and I'm lucky because I was raised that way, and I just have it naturally, and I'm grateful for that. But then you look at those actions that might be contradicting what you said you want, and then you changing that is the tough part. The sitting still is the first hard thing. Like the
Yeah,
admitting
no.
actually is the first hard part, right? As we know,
Well,
like,
I first hard part I think is awareness. Like
yeah,
is sitting to be aware
yeah,
because admitting that's the next part, accepting.
yeah, it's interesting, but like admitting that you might be doing something wrong or something counter to what you're expecting, like something that is not in support of what you asked for. It's like, oh, but I could be. So then you sit. And then after you recognize the thing that you thought you wanted and you say, yeah, but I still do love that. It's still in my heart. Okay, what have you been doing? And then allowing some stillness to provide the answers as opposed to the mind. Like you were talking about, get out of the mind, get into the body with the Alexander technique. It is quite helpful.
Yep. It is
um, and
100%.
then from there, like you and I just said, I don't know if we were recording when we had the conversation about just 4 or 5 days of like committed meditation has changed
No, we were
everything.
not. We yeah,
So
we just
last,
shifted the two of us.
in part one, you said, what do you do to make sure you're in that space? And I'm like, nothing. I usually wait till I'm on my ass and have been defeated to be like, oh, I think I have to change something. So just since we spoke like 5 days ago or whatever, I've been, oh, frozen. I'm going to give it a minute. Okay. So just since we spoke like 5 days ago, I've been committed to a morning routine again, and everything has turned around entirely. And the funniest part is your outside circumstances like won't even change that much. It's your perception of them because you stop worrying about them and you stop needing them to go a certain way, and then everything just changes. That's really just science.
I think it's a yes, and I think it's also just there. Like you're talking how people perceive the world and what's coming at you. There's just so much in this world today that's pulling at us in all different directions. Even if we don't want to, I'm like this with like the news, and I know it's horrible what's going on, but there's another side. Like,
You
is
just
that
froze for
serving?
there's so much in this world today, and I just want to
Yeah,
highlight
just
here, yeah, that
yes. I
we
want to
can't even
highlight like,
we can't even have a
is this?
conversation.
Yeah, we can't even have a conversation because we expect this to be like this. So
Yeah,
if you know, this is real deal. Like we're distracted with this little pause that's happening. But again, if we're really present,
yeah.
which
We've been
actually
picking
I
right back
feel
up.
like
Yep.
Brooke has been present and I'm sitting there quietly.
Yeah.
But the goal is like really it's not even intentional that you realize that you're misaligned or doing things that don't serve you or not aligned with what you want. It's actually like things are just attaching to your energy and you're
Yeah.
allowing it
Yeah.
unconsciously
Yep.
and only when you can, and I'm talking from experience in the last week of what I've done work for myself because I've been so off
Mm-hmm.
from life happenings, my cousin passing, whatever. And just you're saying this too is when we actually we all have to do this practice when something feels forced or not feeling alive. We have to sit still and actually do nothing and wait for the answer
Mm-hmm.
and reconnect to routine that allows our nervous system to be calm. And that's what I hear you saying. And that also is what I hear you saying. Studio PC is the magic that you're bringing to the youth, um, is something that's not out really in other things in your industry.
Yeah.
And you're so passionate about bringing that to the youth. And I just want to throw Josie right in there with you
Mm.
because it's real. Like what you're
Yeah.
doing is necessary
Yeah.
because it's not taught
Yeah.
in schools or anything.
Right. That's the actual problem. I mean, I've expanded so far out beyond children as well because think about the adults who are raising the children also, like everybody needs to be doing the work, you know? Hi.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm just laughing because I'm the universe also.
Mm.
It's like we think we want it this way. It could be our business, it could be whatever. I thought I was going to be on the LPGA, whatever. The
Right.
universe will just like go, hey, no, you're going this way. And a reason I'm raising my hand is because something's calling me to connect to youth in the way that you're connecting, but I
Wow.
can't also do that work if I do not connect to the youth leaders, i.e., parenting, coaches, CEO leaders. Um, that is where the shift will come.
Yeah.
We help youth find their magic, but also help the leaders of the youth connect that. Yeah.
Yes, agreed. And I just want
What's
to
your thought
also,
to that?
my thought went somewhere else, so I'm gonna, yes.
Okay.
My thought is that's exactly the point I was making is that like everyone, it's not just about the kids because people need to be teaching the kids and people need to teach people to teach the kids because those people weren't taught, you know? And I was taught by getting sick. See, interesting,
Mm-hmm.
right? No
Yes.
one really, and then I sought out people when I was ill who happened to be able to identify all of these things for me and with me and help me understand that this was a gift and a path and part of what I was meant to do. And I just need to say here that, like, at this juncture in my life where I've left Los Angeles and I'm in a sort of recalibrating healing phase dealing with the mold thing, um, and my immune system, like, I have to basically start over with with rebuilding my immunity, and we talked about that I think last time, but in terms of my career as an actor myself and not just a mentor and not just a teacher, you know, I stick with the career myself for several reasons. One, because it is the thing that lights me up. I didn't start being a teacher. I didn't start as a mentor. I didn't start as an entrepreneur. I started as an artist who loved doing what they do. Then the wanting and the needing came, and then the universe was like, well, we're going to shape you in this way. And so now, then I fought that. I even fought it through Lyme disease. So I fought Lyme disease, and then I fought what it was, the gift it was there to give me. And I put myself right back in a position to be taught again, brutally taught, not easily. This is harsh what I'm going through right now. It sucks. But there's a level of acceptance now that was not there before. And I can guarantee you, we'll come back to this episode. We'll do part 3 another time in the future.
I was just
I
saying,
can
we have
guarantee
so
you
much. We
that
could go, there's
this
definitely.
is going to change my work as an actor, not just show me how to give back. It will then change, which then is a gift to people who want to pursue, because certain people will want happiness and success to look a certain way that won't look like what I do. And then certain people will look at me and be like, I want to be like Brooke and the people who do what Brooke does, which is be kind, enjoy health, have a well-balanced life, have a successful career where I'm being paid, where I'm part of projects that value me. And there's a lot of ways to be unhappy in this business. So getting there is not always getting there. And it's very different for everyone. So I'm really happy, to have recommitted to my own self-care, because the changes happen so quickly that I'm so excited to see what that brings for me in my own career. And the challenge is to not get ahead, just to be here. I get very frustrated very easily, because we all do, with when you have a dream, so yeah, it's interesting to see what that will look like when I'm not like
I don't
bulldozing
know.
my way through it.
As an athlete, as a creator, very parallel. Like I've gone through my lessons, very parallel
Yeah.
journeys
Well, it's
that we have
being a pro at
experienced.
something. Yeah.
No, just like, and that you want to um, step into the youth so they have tools that you didn't have.
Yeah.
And when you think of, I usually ask who made an imprint on you, but I want to ask, when you think of all the people you have mentored and touched, and what impact, when you think of a memory of someone
Oh,
that
you froze.
truly
Hang
you
on. I'm going to
impacted,
want this
you
question
put,
in its entirety. Hang on.
you will.
Hold. Hold. Okay. I missed all of that. So when I think of the
So when
people
you
who I've
think,
taught, yeah.
I usually ask about your, like, who left an imprint on you, but I want to ask, what who did you leave an extraordinary imprint on their way of being, that pops in your head, and someone actually like really acknowledged that when you think of a story, or even if they didn't acknowledge it, like when you think back of people you touched.
I mean, it's literally every single face that walked through the doors of the studio on Shore Road.
Mm.
Because you just can't explain like what happened in there. Man, I laughed very hard in that place, and I was really sick the whole time. But yeah, I mean, there are so many. I mean, there are so many. I don't have one specific person. I mean, obviously Luke, who I still work with closely to this day. Luke will say he never would have gotten anywhere without me, but I don't believe that. And, Luke is a gifted wizard of a songstress, and he's a brilliant actor, and he's a loving, kind human who comes from a great family that takes really good care of me as a person. They're just so good to me. So that's a very valuable, like, fulfilling relationship for me. But and Luke, he does say I would have had this without you, but I'm like, okay.
Well, no one knows. Not everybody knows Luke. So she mentored a
Frozen.
gentleman on
Okay.
just
Start over.
just tell us about Luke. Like basically, he made it through voice, or American's Got
So
Talent, or
yeah, so Luke came into studio. So he was one of the kids that walked through the doors at Studio PCI, and I was sitting with my assistant Tori, and everyone was getting up. These are 10-year-olds auditioning to play Jesus in Godspell, and Luke gets up there, and Tori and I will never, ever, ever forget this moment. We were like we just looked at each other. It was mind boggling. He was so good. Anyway, he was amazing in the play. And then I had left for LA, and Luke um, sang at the Broadway. Like they pull somebody up out of the audience at Waitress, and you get to sing up on stage. And Luke obviously made a huge impression. And then a scout found him from America's Got Talent, and he called me and I coached him through his audition. And then he just kept going and going and going until he got on the show, and he was out there. And so I was with him every step of the way on set, and we just had so much fun. But he was so young at the time, and my job was not coaching Luke's voice, and it still is not to this day. My job is to be there for Luke in every capacity that he needs me. And we have a really good chemistry and a really good friendship. And, it's just really valuable because I've been with him so long now as well, that there's a trust there that takes a long time to build. So, obviously he stands out because he's done very impressive, great, visible things. But there are so many kids that didn't even go into this as a business or as a career that will call me from college, being like, I saw a play and I thought of you. That was like the best time of my entire life. And Amanda Pacey still texts me all the time. She's a total athlete now, didn't go for theater. And she's like, can you send me a clip of the book? Because it makes her happy,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it teaches them skills that they use for the rest of their lives,
Let's leave with the imprint that you want to leave on in a sentence form, whatever. When
Mm,
people think of Brooke Procida
mm, mm.
and Studio PCI, what is the imprint that you want to leave on them?
I've had this interesting journey in my life, and it continues now, and I have stopped fighting it. And this is really interesting that you and I were talking about this, I think, before we started recording, where you were saying you need to choose a path. And you're talking about Josie auditioning for this art school, and that is it too young to be committing to like one way forward? And I think that when people think about who I am, they don't know what to say that I do. And I find it, I used to try to fit myself into a box. Like, I'm an actor. And if I was writing a script, it would deviate me, or it would pull me away from being an actor. And then you would just not be able to make an impression as an actor, but you were a writer. Nowadays, like, because pretty much of social media and the way information is exchanged so quickly, and how we are all creators in our own little spaces, they call it the multi-hyphenate. And it's a big thing at USC. They have people come in like Will Ferrell, who's a multi-hyphenate. That's how I look at myself. And there is no definitive parameter for me. So it could be that tomorrow you see me doing a cooking show because I am creative
I
in the
love it.
way, you know what I mean? Like, and I
Yeah.
do, I go into the kitchen. My mom's like, what about the recipe? I'm like, I don't use recipes. Who are you talking to? I glance at something and then I create. And then it's like, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Do everything.
And so whether I'm teaching, or whether I'm on set, or whether I am a guest at a wedding, or I am doing a cooking show, I am going to show up and be present and enjoy myself, and make sure that energy is being recycled, so that I'm reading the room and that I am letting go and experiencing joy and compassion. Those are two things that I actually struggle with, to be honest. So
I love that.
I
I
can
love
get
that.
I can get pissy and in a bad mood real easily, and you have to remember it's your job to show up and let go. Like, it's not that big of a deal whatever you're doing. Seriously, unless you are really removing someone's heart and putting something else in place. And yeah, but
Well, we're
like
gonna end. I love that. We're gonna end in that, and I love that you don't, because I struggle with even the word coach, because I'm like, I'm a cheerleader, I'm a
yeah,
guide, I don't even, I'm whatever. I could do all directions.
present, you're present.
I'm holding space for
You're a
people. That's
space
what I am.
holder. Yeah.
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 And a connector. But
Mhm.
I do think you are magical, and your journey is so freaking cool. Like, the fact that I only had 2 hours with you bothers me. Sorry. So we're gonna do it again one day, and I'm gonna go on your panel anyway. So
Yeah, you'll come on my panel, and then once Limelight Journey, the movie, is finished, and once I am I'm about to book something. I just have this feeling. So we can talk about what I book next, Limelight Journey, and
Perfect.
how it took
Perfect.
so long to finish it.
Awesome. So we are going to also put all your contacts in our in our descriptions.
Mhm.
But which is the best way to reach out to you?
StudioPCI.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Brooke, I love you dearly, and
I
I
love you
love your
too.
journey, and I love
Yeah.
that I learned a lot today. Actually, the whole time I was like, "Oh my God, I love what you're saying, and you're teaching me and everybody around you, and your energy is infectious." So thank you so much for being on here.
Appreciate all of that. Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to be able to witness all of this in myself and then with you so that I see how I'm doing, you know. I
I love
appreciate
it.
it. It helps me.
Thank you for listening to Journey to June. Join
Thanks
us next
everyone.
week. All right. Bye.
Bye.